Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming down and joining us. I appreciate it. So my name is Sunshine Garside. I'm representing the Our Promise campaign. I'm actually a state employee. I'm a lieutenant with the California Highway Patrol, and I'm on loan to Our Promise through the campaign season to help assist the Our Promise get the forms out to our almost 300,000 state employees. So they only have 3 full-time employees that work this campaign year-round, and they cannot facilitate our state as it's spread out. So they beg and steal and borrow from different state agencies to loan employees over for the campaign. So it essentially starts in July for us, so the middle of July, and goes through November. So we get training prior to, and then start coming out and doing events like this where we provide training to the state agencies, key connectors like yourself, and the DCCs that help us. So we're like one level, they're another level, and then you guys are essentially the boots on the ground. So today, we're going to talk about basically what is Our Promise, kind of the United Way's role in it, the state employees' benefits, so the benefits to the state employees for donating through the Our Promise campaign, what the fees are associated with the campaign. A lot of questions, I know my experience, a lot of employees want to know, hey, well, how much of my donation is going to the nonprofit I choose, and why are there fees, and what are those fees? So we'll discuss those so that you're better prepared to answer those questions should you get asked by your employees or your staff. The results and goals, so the statewide results and goals. Your roles and responsibilities. We'll go over the pledge form, because that's one of the biggest parts, is making sure this pledge form is filled out appropriately and properly when you get it back from your employees. That'll make Andra and Kelsey's job a lot easier as they get all your department's forms back. And also make it easier for you, because you guys are more than likely going to be the ones that your employees, whether it be your homes or whoever, is going to come to and ask, like, hey, how do I fill this out? What goes where? The campaign dates, social media, best practices, and contact info. So what is Our Promise? Our Promise is the only statewide giving campaign that's actually sanctioned by the government code. So back in 1957, Augustus Freeman Hawkins was a legislator who wanted state employees to be able to donate through their payroll deductions into the Our Promise campaign. So he put a campaign together himself and got I don't know what Senate or some assembly bill it was back then, but got it passed through the governor's office. And it's now into law as Government Code 14659. If you ever want to look at it, or your employees are like, hey, why am I seeing this? Well, it's mandated by the government code. And essentially what it says is that every state employee has the opportunity to donate through their payroll deduction to a nonprofit of their choice. So what that means for you, as we'll get into, is that every state employee is given a form and given the opportunity to donate, and that they know what the program is. And hopefully after today, you'll have that information and be able to talk about it a little bit more succinctly if you haven't already. Have any of you participated in this campaign before as a key connector? Okay, all right. So Department of General Services, DGS, oversees the Memorandum of Understanding. So since the beginning of the campaign, United Way has been the vendor that has the contract for facilitating the statewide giving campaign. DGS oversees that MOU, and so that's what their role in it. So with any procurement or any purchasing or any contracts that any state agency has, all filters through DGS. So that's how DGS is involved. And then the state controller's office, they're the ones that issue our paychecks. So that's why they're involved. They're also the ones that take out, if there's any, our state taxes, our federal taxes, our retirement contributions, whatever it is, it's the state controller's office that pulls that money out and then sends it to where it's supposed to go. So that's how the state controller's office is involved. And if I'm talking too fast, please let me know if you need me to slow down. So what is United Way's role? So United Way is the vendor. And they have been, like I said, since the beginning of the Our Promise the beginning of the giving campaign. Several years ago, they rebranded it. So Our Promise is a subsection of United Way. They have a completely different brand and logo, kind of like you see. So you have the Our Promise campaign. The 3 employees that work for United Way under the Our Promise campaign only facilitate Our Promise campaign-related information year-round, whether it be donor questions, nonprofit questions to them, assistants, they're the ones that take care of that all year round. So they have a completely separate role within United Away. We talked about DGS, so they facilitate the, we already talked about DGS. So the United Way, for a lot of people think, hey, I can only do this, or not United Way, but the Our Promise campaign, I only have access to them during the campaign season, which is September through October. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, they're there all year round. So if you have questions about your donation, or your employees have questions about their donation, where it's going, or they want to change it at any time during the year, they don't have to do it just right now. This is just the big campaign season, but it can be done anytime if they want to cancel it, etc. And they act as a fiscal agent. Essentially what that means is, so state controller's office every month, all the donations from state employees get pulled out from the state controller's office, and state controller's office issues a check over to the Our Promise campaign. The Our Promise campaign is the fiscal agent, which then distributes it out to all the nonprofits that we donate through the state. It makes it a little easier because state controller's office wants nothing to do with, understandably so, trying to figure out, okay, I got to send Andrus $10 over here, Sunshine's $10 to this nonprofit. It's too much work. It just makes it easier for them to give it to United Way, and then United Way makes the payouts to all the nonprofits. State employees benefit by contributing into the campaign. So a state employee can donate to any nonprofit organization as long as they're a recognized nonprofit, they're a recognized valid nonprofit. Not only in the state of California, it could be anywhere in the United States. So if you have a nonprofit organization that's all the way over in New York, and you have their 501(c), a state employee can donate to them through their payroll deduction. It's a minimum of $5 per nonprofit every month. So years ago, there used to, if you guys have been around in the state for a little bit, years ago, like when I first came on, you could donate $2 a month. And we still have some people that are grandfathered, they donate $2 a month, but now they've upped it to a minimum of $5. Some people try to get competitive. They are not competitive, but I can't think of the word, creative, ambitious. And they try to donate, okay, I'm going to donate $5, but then I'm going to write out 5 nonprofits, so I'm going to give $1 to each one. It doesn't work that way. And we've seen it, but it doesn't work that way. It's $5 per nonprofit. That's the minimum. So if you get above the $5 and you want to donate $6, that's fine. It's just the $5 minimum. And they can donate to as many nonprofits as they want. In some of the agencies, there's a lot of competition between state agencies about who can raise more, just to try to up what we're doing within our communities. I don't necessarily think you guys are competing, haven't been called out. I know, like, I work for the Highway Patrol, so DMV has called out the Highway Patrol, and they're trying to up their donor support, and we'll get to it later, but CHP is like one of the highest, or is the highest for the last several years for the amount of money that we donate to nonprofits. A lot of it's because we donate to the 1199 Foundation, which directly affects our members. When an officer is killed in the line of duty, 1199 goes and supports their family. And it's a nonprofit, so a lot of our members give directly to them, but there's other organizations too. Ease of giving through the pay warrant. So some of the questions you may get is like, well, I can donate directly to my nonprofit, and that's great. If they are, by all means, have them donate directly. But sometimes we get distracted or things happen, and we don't write that check. So sometimes if they're going to say, I don't want to do it here, I'm going to do it over here. Okay, great. Please do, but are you really going to write that check every month? When you could have this $5 come out through your check, you're never going to see it. It's just going to automatically come out. It'll be a line, and the little lines on your deductions on your check, you don't even have to worry about it. And what that does for the nonprofits, it actually gives them a budget to work on. So this campaign we're doing now, but it's for the 2019 payroll deduction starting in January through December. So in January, after we've tallied all the payroll deductions and all the nonprofits, each nonprofit's going to get a letter from Our Promise saying, hey, 1199, you have X amount of dollars that have been set aside for you throughout the year. So now they can take that amount of money and they can budget off that. So they know they're going to get, if it's $5 a month, they know they're going to get $60. Well, then they can designate that $60 to whatever they need within their resources. Whereas if it's not through the payroll deduction, they may very well get it, but they don't know that it's coming. So it's just like we get our paychecks every month. We know exactly how much money our paycheck is going to be. We balance our bills based on that. We know what we can spend. Through the payroll deductions, the nonprofits know that as well. So we were talking about retirement earlier. You mentioned a couple people have already retired or going to. Generally, we know who's going to retire, right? Most of the time, people make it known, especially in state government. Hey, I'm retiring on this date, or I'm going to go the end of the year because then I can roll over stuff for next year, whatever it may be. Is one of the things that I didn't know that I learned this year is that if you're going to retire, you can actually continue your payroll donation to whatever nonprofit. There's only a little caveat. When we retire, we don't get paid through State Controller's office anymore. We now get paid through CalPERS, so it's a different payment system. But we have Our Promise can then process it through CalPERS. In the form, when we get through it, there's actually a box that says retiring. You would mark that box. The employee would put the date they estimate, if they don't have an exact date, I might go June, I might go July, I don't know which. They just put one of those boxes. Tabitha Angel, who is with Our Promise, will then get a hold of them, and then she will make sure that their donation to whatever nonprofit continues into retirement. They just have to do it a little bit differently. So be sure to let your retirees know that they can do that. Or if you have retirees that come in and they're like, hey, I want to do this, even if they've already retired, they can actually start doing it as too. They would still fill out this form. They would work with Tabitha, and Tabitha would get it all set up for them. So I'm sorry, I point like Tabitha's here. She's not here. Veronica's here helping me out, but I talk with my hands. So one of the other things that is one of the other things to know with this is Our Promise utilize retired annuitants to help them with this campaign. So like I said, we have approximately 290,000 state employees, and there's only 3 full-time people that work for the Our Promise campaign. They can't facilitate all of it all the time. So like I said, they use state employees during a 4-month time period to help facilitate this. Well, we have, like right now, we have a retired annuitant from Health and Human Services that she comes back every year just to help out with this campaign. And she does all their agencies, which is huge. This is her 3rd year doing that. So if it's something that you may be interested in when you get to that retirement age, or other people in your department supports it, that can be done too. We could always give you more information if you want to know that. All right, let's talk about the fees now. So every nonprofit organization has overhead fees, just like every business has overhead fees. There's money that it takes to run the business, to keep the lights on, to print paperwork. Same thing with Our Promise campaign. So Our Promise campaign fees are 14%. That's the total. So 14% off if you were to do, and I'd have to get out the calculator, but literally if you did $5 a month and you did 14% off of that, those fees go back towards Our Promise and DGS, or the United Way and DGS. Most nonprofit fees overhead fees range between 15 to 16% on average here in California, and Our Promise is slightly below that. So 8% of it goes to the UWCCR, that's United Way California Capital Region, so that's the United Way here in Sacramento, and that's where the Our Promise campaign is run statewide, and that 8% goes to printing out posters, flyers, the pledge forms, etc., as well as paying for the salary for the 3 full-time employees that are there. 5.5% goes to the local United Way where the donor lives. So if you have a donor down in Bakersfield, it would go to whichever United Way is located down there. The reason why 5.5% goes to those local United Ways is Our Promise the 3 people up here can't be everywhere. So we put our key connectors throughout the state in contact with the local United Ways as well to help facilitate the program and get information. So they'll go out and do presentations like I'm doing here. They'll go out and take paperwork. They'll help process all the forms. And then 0.5% goes to DGS for maintaining the MOU. Do you have any questions on the fees? No. So last year in 2018, the Our Promise campaigns through approximately 30,000 I think was right, state employees raised just under $6 million. That's a 15, I think, right? No, 3.5% decrease from the year before that we raised, and it decreased from 2016 as well. One of the reasons we think the decrease has occurred is we've had a lot of natural disasters within California in the last few years, from fires to the Oroville Dam, et cetera, and those are disasters that people give directly to during that time. So then they don't necessarily give through their giving campaign, which is wherever the need is we definitely say, hey, give there. But still, 30,000 employees out of the 300,000, so just, I think it's 11% of our state employees are still raising $6 million back into our communities that we live and work in, which is amazing. So our goal is to actually increase it by 5% this year, and hopefully increase the state employee participation rate by 2%, I think. Yep. So does anyone know what the 100% ask means? So the 100% ask is just our goal is that every state employee is asked to participate in the program, basically given the opportunity that they receive the information about what the program is, and that they receive the opportunity to donate should they so desire. It doesn't mean they have to, they're not mandated, but we want them all to have the opportunity. And that's where the vehicle code, go back to Highway Patrol days, the government code comes in, that it's mandated every state employee be given that opportunity. And it also means that it shouldn't be like, hey, Kelsey, here's that form you get every year, and walk away. And that happens because we have busy jobs and things happen, but it's like taking 2 minutes to tell them, whether it be in a staff meeting or one-on-one, like, hey, this is your opportunity to donate to any nonprofit. It doesn't go necessarily to the United Way. It goes to Wounded Warrior, Loaves and Fishes here in Sacramento, whichever one you choose. So now we're going to get down to your roles and responsibilities. So I believe you guys have already signed the confidentiality forms, because Kelsey and Andrew have gotten those back to me. But the reason why we sign the confidentiality forms is our employees, should they choose to donate or change or whatever, and they turn these forms back into you, it's going to have their social security number on it. There's confidential information that we want to protect, just like we do in our state jobs anyways. When we get confidential information, we have to make sure we protect that information. That also means that when you get these forms back, that they're locked up, they're secured. If you get check or cash, that all that information is secured and isn't just laying out on your desk or in your cubicle for something potentially to happen to it. You work closely with your departmental chairs, who are Kelsey and Andra. Make an informed ask of every employee, basically give them the information of what the program's about. And remember that our goal is 100% ask. And then to answer questions. That's one of the reasons you're sitting in here in this training today, is so that when they come to you, you can answer the questions about, hey, what am I supposed to do? What does this mean, et cetera. So depending on how your departments run it, so you assist in conducting campaign presentation kickoffs. Well, you guys already have, and you're here in Sacramento, so you already have 2 events coming up. So on the 2nd, you have a nonprofit food truck fair type thing that's going to go on out here that helps promote the campaign and get our employees that are here locally to come down. And then you also have essentially like a kickoff presentation with your undersecretary on the 7th, where employees can get more information that way. Distribute and collect all the pledge forms. Ensure the employees have properly completed their forms, and we'll go over the form line by line here in a few minutes. But it'll help make Kelsey and Andrew's job, when you guys get these back from your employees, that it's filled out properly. Because if it's not filled out properly, we can't process it at the United Way. We have to either send it back to your department, and then you get it back to the employee if we can't get in touch with them. And plus, it's their money. So especially the ones who choose to participate, they're choosing to entrust the United Way, our promise, with their money to get to their nonprofit. So I think it's very important for us that this is filled out, so we make sure that their money is going where they want it to go. All right, so the pledge forms. We'll get right into the top. So I've handed you each a blank pledge form, and we're going to look at the top at box A through E, so this section right here. So first of all, can anybody tell me how many numbers are in a Social Security? 9. We need all 9. Some employees like to give the last 4, the middle 2. Sometimes, I know, it's all right. It's all right. They want to give a piece of it, and they don't give it all. If they don't give all the Social Security number, we can't process it. The reason is, even if your department has a specific employee number, the state controller's office only processes all of our pay warrants based on our Social Security number. So, and until that changes, it's always going to be the Social Security number. So with that, we need all 9 digits. If they only give you 2, 3, 4, or anything less than 9, give it back to them. So the second box, box B, is the employee name. So it needs to be exactly as is printed on your pay warrant. So if you have an employee whose name is William Smith, but he goes by Bob and he writes Bob Smith on there, it's not going to get processed. It needs just how it would be printed. So it's usually the first initial, the middle initial, and then the last name. So however it is on their payroll warrant every month, let them know that that's what needs to go in this. This section of boxes is created by the SCO. So the box C is your agency number, which you have 1 or 2. You have 2 agencies. Don't you have 241? 830 and 831, right? So that's your agency number. Box D is your unit number, so whatever your specific unit number that your department has assigned. So it's probably by location. There may be different unit numbers within headquarters here.
Find that out. So on the org chart, I'll show you guys. They have. Yeah.
And then box E, there's the triple X's there on the sample. Box E is how you can tell if somebody's a current donor or not. So if there's triple X's, that means they're not a current donor. If there's 3 digits, so if there's 3 numerical digits, so 3 numbers, then they are a donor, which will make a difference on some of the things as you get down into the boxes down below. And then their contact information. So in their contact information, they can write out John Robert Smith. If their name's William and they go by Bob, if they want to write William, parentheses, Bob Smith there, that's perfectly fine, as long as the one up above is how it's on their payroll. We want their home address. We don't want their business address because state employees transfer. State employees move around, and our promise is separate from our HR system, separate from the state. So if they need to contact the employee because something's happened with the nonprofit that they donate to, because nonprofits do cease to exist sometime, they don't renew their validity status, et cetera. When that happens, the Our Promise then needs to redirect the funds that are being donated.
Real quick.
Yes, ma'am.
The forms that are pre-printed already have that box.
Yes.
Completely filled out.
Yes.
We're looking at blank forms. If didn't get a pre-printed form, that's where that information is going to be important. Otherwise, all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Much easier. Yeah, especially for you, vet services is huge. You might have 1 or 2 blanks that you'll have. Maybe that will be pre-printed on all of the forms. So if they're
Yes.
yeah, the second part is not done, so they'll with the unit number, the agency number, all of that is already.
Yeah. So the pledge forms were printed out of the SCO based on the June 1st pay warrants. So if anybody was hired after June 1st, or if they've transferred from one unit to another, that would be where you wouldn't have a pre-printed pledge form for them. So if you have anyone like transferred, promoted, or whatever, and they didn't promote within the unit they were already in, then you would have to give them a blank one. But yeah, if they're pre-printed, then you don't need to worry about that information that's on the top. Other than that last 3 boxes, if they're a donor or not, depending on what we do down in the boxes. Absolutely. So then phone number, the work and cell number, it just needs to be a number that we can get a hold, that Our Promise can get a hold of the employees, especially so say one of these forms get completed incorrectly and it makes it all the way to Our Promise. The first step that we actually do is try to contact the employee first. That's why we need to make sure we have current contact information separate from the state email system. So a good phone number for them. And then a personal email. We don't want, same thing like I said before, we don't want their work email. We want a personal email to be able to contact them. If they don't have to give an email. If they don't give an email, they need to make sure that they have current contact info in there so that we can contact them. All right, so now we're going to go down to boxes 1 through 7, where it talks about manage your donation. So box 1, start a new ongoing payroll deduction. You're only going to mark that box if you have triple X's, they're not a current donor. If they're not a current donor and they're not in the system. So if I decided I want to all of a sudden donate to $11.99, I would mark that box as a new donor. If I'm already a current donor, but I want to either increase my donation or now give to another organization, I would mark change for the next box. Let me go back first to the current donor. So box F is for the minimum amount, which is going to be $5 per nonprofit like we talked about before. So if, say I start a new donation, I'm going to donate to 2 nonprofits, then it would be $10 because it would be $5 per nonprofit. And then box G, jump over here, it's the total annual amount that you're donating. So a little bit of math comes into play. So you have to bust out the calculators to make sure that they added up their math correctly. So if it's $5 and it's $60 annually, 10, then you get to 120, so on. So when we talk about box 2, change your current donation. So you would look up, so if they mark that box, but they have triple X's up in that box at the very top, so box, I'm glad I have my glasses on, box E, thank you. If they have triple X's in that box, then they've marked the wrong one. They have to mark the first one. If they mark change your current donation, then they should have a 3-digit code already in that box E. Now, if they mark change the current donation and they want to up it, they would just, if they're donating 5 now and they want to donate 10, they would just put $10 here for 120 total. If they're changing their current donation, but they're adding another nonprofit, so now I'm going to donate 2, $5 each, 10, and then 120. And then we'll go down to the box. So, yep. Yeah, so say I no longer want to donate to $11.99, but now I want to donate to Loaves and Fishes, I would still mark change. I would just mark change, and then I write $5. That would be the total payroll, monthly payroll, and $60 for the annual. And then down, when we get down, like select nonprofits, we'd write in the information there. Box 3, as I talked about, is the retiring box. If you have an employee that knows they're going to retire sometime next year, in the next several months, they would mark that, write the approximate date, so they think it's going to be June 1st, and then still they'd write, okay, I want to donate $5 a month or whatever it is for a total annual. So on all three of those choices, 1, 2, and 3, so it goes back, let's go back to your pre-printed, even your pre-printed forms. So if you're doing any change, add, or whatever, they have to have their Social Security number on there. So the forms are not pre-printed with their Social Security number on there. So they will have to write that part in. They'll be pre-printed with the rest of the information, the name, agency code, so on and so forth. But that's where they have to include their Social Security number for boxes 1, 2, or 3. If they do not have it, give it back to them. And if they're worried about, well, why should I give you a form with my Social Security number on it? Well, if you want to do this, this is how we have to process it. But if they're uncomfortable, they can put it in an envelope and seal it. They can write Our Promise on the envelope and then give it to you that way if they're not comfortable handing it. Or maybe they know that they need to give it to you, but you're away from your desk. Put it in an envelope, seal it, and then leave it on your desk. And then when you go through and processes them, when you would check everything. Box number 4. So make a one-time gift, cash or check. So sometimes people are like, hey, I don't want to do a monthly payroll deduction, but they come out to your food truck, nonprofit fair, and Loaves and Fishes is out there, and they're like, I don't know if Loaves and Fishes is one of them, I can't remember, but I really want to give like a one-time donation to them for whatever, even $5, $10, $1. For this, I mean, for a one-time cash or check thing, they can do that. They would mark that. They don't need to put their social security number because we're not doing a payroll deduction. They would still need to fill out their info, and they give you a check with our cash for whatever amount. Then they would just write in the amount that they're donating to that one. They would make the check out actually to Our Promise campaign, not to Loaves and Fishes, because Our Promise campaign will then take it and credit it towards your departmental's giving campaign, and then they will pay out whatever that nonprofit is. Number 5, make no changes. So if you are a current donor or your employee is a current donor and they're like, hey, I don't want to do anything, I just want to leave it how it is, I already donate every month, they would mark that box, they would initial to the side, and that's all they have to do. They don't need to fill out anything else. They're like, I don't want to do anything. So even if they're a current donor and they don't turn this form in, like I want to make no changes, it's fine. It's just, it rolls over year to year. If they're a current donor and they want to cancel, though, they don't want to donate anymore through the Our Promise, they have to mark box number 6. So boxes 6 and 7 get confused a lot. Some current donors will mark box 7 to say, hey, I decline participation. They think, well, it doesn't work that way. Decline is for someone who's not participating already. Like, I don't want to do this. They put an X through it and go on your way. But if they want to cancel, they mark box 6. They have to include their social security number at the top and their contact info, because we still have to go through SEO to cancel all that, and they have to sign it at the bottom. And then box 7, decline participation. It says sign and date below. They actually don't have to sign. That's a misprint. The other ones, they should sign and date below, but or they need to. But they literally, some people will just mark, I'm not doing this. They put a line through it. That's perfectly fine. Any questions on that? All right. So now we'll get to the select nonprofits. So I handed each of you this nonprofit guide. There's like a little over 2,000 nonprofits that are actually registered with the Our Promise campaign. It doesn't mean they're the only nonprofits that your employees can donate to. They're just the ones that have chosen to register and have their name in this pretty little booklet for easy access. So if your nonprofit that you choose to donate to, say I find Cancer Care Incorporated, and it's alphabetical, excuse me. It has all the information that you're going to need, but if they're registered, all you need is their name, which I would write in box 1, Cancer Care Incorporated, their OP code. So above each nonprofit, there's a numerical digit, which is a code, and they range. Some of them are 4 digits, some 3, it just depends on when they started registering. You would put their OP code number in the OP box, and then I would write how much I want to go to them a month for a total annually. And then if I have a second one, I'd write the second one in, so on and so forth. Yep, that's their OP code. So if you have a nonprofit that is actually not in this book, so say the employee goes, hey, I want to donate to Sunshine's Food and Ag. I don't know. I don't have an organization, but I'm making something up. I want to donate to that, but it's not in this book. Well, as long as they're a registered nonprofit, they're a valid nonprofit, which essentially means they're valid through the Department of Justice. They can do that. They just need to get they need the name of the organization, the address of the organization, contact information, and their 501(c), so their tax ID number for their nonprofit. If they don't have that, and they're like, well, I don't know I want to donate to Sunshine's Food and Ag, but I don't have anything. Well, there's a couple different ways. One, they can call the organization directly, or they can go on to GuideStar, because the GuideStar, and I won't say it has every single one, because I'm sure that eventually there's going to be one that's not in there. But if you go onto GuideStar.org, which is actually on the form, and you put in the name, it should pull up their information. If a lot of people don't know, like they're like churches, religious organizations, most of them are 501(c)(3)s. A lot of people do monthly donations to their churches or their church or religious organization. They can donate through Our Promise to their church as well. They just need to get a hold of the church, get the information, and put it down. So if you notice, though, there's only one space for it, for a nonprofit. Well, what if I want to donate to 10 nonprofits or 2 nonprofits? That's not a problem. We just ask that they type up like on a Word document and attach it, maybe make sure they have their name and stuff on the second page, so if by chance it gets separated, you know what form it goes back to, and they type out the organization and all the information from their name, address, phone number, and tax ID number, the monthly amount they want to donate, and for a total annual amount. And I guess there's a little box at the bottom. It actually tells them. So like if you forget or that, and they read, but sometimes we don't read. But there's a little box they can check, say need more space, and then you just go onto the back of the form. If they want to use a blank form and say they're a bunch of Our Promise registered, they can use a blank form too. If they want to attach 10 blank forms together with all that, that's fine. Any questions? The tax ID number. So if it's an Our Promise, if it's one that's already registered, Our Promise already has it, so you don't need it. So if it's an organization in here, but if it's not one that's in here, you would get it either from guidestar.org or call the organization directly, or go to the web. Most of the ones that have websites will have their tax ID number on their website. Yes, and when our system goes up, I'll also send you, if I haven't, I thought I did, but an electronic version of that booklet as well. You can email it out to your employees, and then they can word search it. In here, it's alphabetically. On the website, you can search by cause. So like, hey, I don't know what organization, but I want to donate to some organization that deals with children, and you can search it by subject and then go through and figure out which one they want to donate to. And then they got to sign and date it. So any of the boxes except for decline, so number 7, if they mark any of the other boxes 1 through 6, they need to sign at the bottom. If they don't sign at the bottom, give them back, tell them to sign at the bottom. They sign in ink. And then they also have to do a little bit more math. So on the form where you had your total annual amounts here on the very far left, just left hand here, but if you're facing it, your right hand column. On the far right, they would add whatever the total annual deduction is, and then they would put it down here at the bottom. And that's just to make sure, because we're asking the employees to give their money to whatever cause that they support. We want to make sure that they understand how much money is going to come out of their check every single month for a total for the year. So that total down there is for the year. All right, facts from donors. So we've kind of covered this already, but sometimes employees are like, I don't know about giving you my Social Security number. Well, that's where you got to explain that if they want to participate in this program. The reason why is because it goes through the SCO, and that's the only way we can process it. However, they can put it in an envelope, seal it, if that makes them feel more secure. I can send a check directly to my nonprofit, absolutely. The goal of this campaign, United Way, is Our Promise is facilitating it, but it's really for us to give back to our communities. I don't know anybody who doesn't want to give back to their communities, but some people may say, I can't afford $5, and that's fine. If they can't afford $5, I would encourage them as they see here, if they see some of the nonprofits, what are some other ways that you can give back to them? Do you have any time that you can spare, whatever it may be? And then, does $5 make a difference? It does. When I encourage you, when they have the nonprofits out here, if you go talk to them and ask them, does $5 really make a difference, $5 a month? They're going to tell you, yes, it does make a difference. So in this donor resource guide, which I'll also send to you electronically, if you go back, and I've given each one of you, it's the more fancier, glossy version. The back of it talks about what your dollar does, and it breaks it down, like the little bit of money for different examples that it can do. So if your employees look and say it doesn't make a difference, kind of show them the back of this and talk about some of the things. So $25 provides crisis counseling to certain people depending on what nonprofit it is. So it breaks it down, large amounts and small amount, but $5 a month turns into $60 a year, and that can make a difference. And then you take $60 a year, times it by 30,000 state employees, and we get $6 million. Does $6 million make a difference? Absolutely. It absolutely does. So we already had our statewide campaign, but our statewide kickoff, our campaign for the state starts in September, runs through the end of October, does every year. And then each specific department has their own time frame within there. Your guys' starts on the 2nd, right? And it goes through the 10th, right? So it's like a 2-week period, so it's coming up in a couple weeks. We have social media, because everyone's on social media except for me. So if you do campaigns and you take photos and whatever, please share them with us. Or also your employees who are like, oh, I want more information. Tell them to look for Our Promise CA on social media, whether it be Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and they can get more information that way. We already talked about, people are going to tell you no. We've worked in the state, even if it's for 6 months or however long. People are going to tell you no. It's okay. If they don't want to participate, I've heard it before. I've been a key connector through the Highway Patrol for several years. People are like, I don't want to do this crap. And all right, that's fine. Don't take it personally. Just go on to the next one. Kelsey and Andrew have already scheduled, for, at least for here locally, to bring in nonprofits. I encourage you, if you haven't gone out and interacted with them, just even if you don't want to donate, but just hear what they're doing in our communities and what a difference they make, by all means, and encourage your employees so we can see what the need is in our communities locally and how potentially we can make an impact. So these are the 3 employees. So when I was talking to Tabitha and I was doing this and she's not here, Tabitha's in the middle. She's the director for the Our Promise campaign. Ben Aceto's her manager, and then Angelica Williams is the administrative assistant. They're the 3 that run this campaign all year round. And their contact info. So all of this information, you guys were handed out a PowerPoint too, is all on your PowerPoint as well. Yes. And so the 888 number is the phone number that is used year-round. It's on all the back of our campaign material, including the pledge form. And this is a number for the employees. If they have questions, if they're already current donors, they want more information, they can call that number and during Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and talk to, right now, it would be one of the 8 of the loaned executives that are over there, and then the 3, Tabitha, Ben, and Angelica, can answer questions and look up information for them. Because we get a lot of questions right now. Okay, well, I'm donating, and I've been donating, but I don't remember who I'm donating to. Because on their payroll, it won't say I'm donating to Loaves and Fishes. It's just going to say Our Promise on there. So they can call us and let us know, especially if they want to change, say they want to add another nonprofit. Well, on the new form, they still have to put their current one. So if I'm donating to $11.99, but I want to add our Loaves and Fishes, I still have to put both. So we get a lot of, like, who am I donating and how much money, etc. And I think I breezed through that. That's all I have, unless you guys have questions. Do you have any questions that I can help you with?
We've gotten a little bit of different information. We heard that a few years ago, everybody had to turn one of these in, even if it was a no. Is that not the case anymore? That's
not the case. It's never been the case. I think that's been a department by department specific, and Our Promise does not want departments mandating the employees turn in the form. However, the department wants to track that every employee gives them the form so that they're in compliance with the government code is one thing, but they do not. So if you have an employee that says, I don't want to do this, and they look at you and they say, psh, in the shredder, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. So we do not want them, because that just leaves a negative taste. Like, you have to fill out this form whether you want to donate or not. Well, I thought donating should be my choice. It shouldn't. So you're telling me I have to fill this out even though I'm not going to? We don't want that negative connotation associated with it. So they do not have to turn in the form. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, I had a lot of departments where, even as I've gone around, they're like, well, I'm going to make all my employees. I'm like, hey, I'm not telling you how to run your business, but that is not part of the campaign, and that's not what we want. We want the employees to have the opportunity and the information, and then let them make that choice. We don't want to force anything on them. You have a question?
Yeah, so this probably was talked about before, but does California Department of Veterans Affairs, do we have some sort of competition between sections of who raises the most money at all?
No, we didn't do anything like thought about doing it. Or we just, it's our first year doing it, so we just want participation. We weren't gonna do a competition, but, we'll have extra goodies. Profit the day of. Give incentive to come down. Trinkets and things like that, just to hear them out. But we didn't do any. We might next year though. It was a lot to take.
Okay.
Good question. Anything else? I would say as long as your department's okay with it, doing something like that's great because hopefully it engages your employees, and maybe it's not really a competition among however you want to do it, but anything that gets your employees to buy into it, like, hey, this is what we're doing. Because really it's about what can we do? I mean, we all do what we do because, one, it's a job, but you guys work with veterans, and your mission is to help give back and help those veterans, right? What are some other ways we can do that? We do this, so what outside of, through work, but outside of that, how can we make a difference? Huge.
Yeah, if you guys want to do with most additions, already donate, or if you have anybody who wants to donate, has the most, or they decided to donate, take y'all cake.
There you go. There you go. Cakes are good.
You have my cake, right, Josie?
Andra said she's going to bake a cake.
I'll bake a cake or two if it's a big unit. More than
Well, there you go.
To extend my services as a prize.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, we can talk about that within your vision or from unit.
Very good. All right. Well, that's all I have. And I also left my card, so I mean, you have Kelsey and Andra are going to be huge assets to you, but you can also reach out and give me a call, or my email is only good through the end of November, and then I'm back at the High Patrol. So if you try to email me after that, it won't go anywhere. But like if you have any questions, or even like in your units, if you want me to come in and talk, obviously not give this whole training or whatever, we encourage, if you have the permission, like to bring a nonprofit in to talk to your units. You'll see them out here in the next couple of weeks, but most of the nonprofits that are locally will come in and spend like 5 to 10 minutes at a staff meeting and just talk about what they do. Like Shriners is super impactful. When they come in, they spend like 10 minutes and they talk about all the stuff they do with children in our region. And that's huge. So if you have a cause that you're like, oh, it'd be really cool to have them come in, or you have personnel that have been directly impacted by a nonprofit organization that they're like, hey, this nonprofit really supported me and this is what they did, and they're available to come in and you do like a staff meeting or a training day or whatever, that's really what gets employees involved. Because us talking about it is good, but when you hear the impact that it makes on the other end, that's just like, oh, heart-wrenching, or you get people that like, oh, I get it. I can get behind that cause.
Yeah, when we heard the speech about this lady came out and talked about how afraid they get them prepared for the world. A lot of those kids, they help them and actually stop. She's like, oh, these are some of the kids, like children, you know what I mean? That like it was, and then you have the rescues of animal rescue organizations that always, the pups and the kitties that they take. I mean, there's so many. Quininoa, and they will be here. Yeah, Quininoa, they'll be here. There's others that help cancer. There's build prosthetics.
They bring in the little burn suits. That's literally, they're like the infant ones and it happens.
Like it was heartbreaking. They don't charge them, you know.
Which is huge. So it doesn't matter. They don't ask. It doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. They treat babies, so like literally from birth, even before birth, if they know the baby's going to have a birth defect or something, they prep for them all the way to the age of 18. And they never ask for insurance. Even if you have insurance, they don't ask you for it. They treat them regardless. And it's absolutely amazing what they do. It's amazing.
There's a lot of veterans.
There's
transition. Veterans that are struggling, that may not be able to pay their rent. We have a lot of programs here, as you know, service or let's get funding. I'm going to lose my house tomorrow, and they cut a check, you know, to keep them from losing their ability so that they now. I need that can help them today. I need. Yeah, they're like, you have to. And we don't. We have programs that help a while to kick in, but these are people that build. I mean, the lady that we talked to, all you know today, and they need got it, you know, and we're turn their power back on. That one it was the rent. You know, they were going to. Yeah, they cut the check to the land. That's okay. We talked to a lot, and yeah. We tried to reach out to a few that honestly that touched our hearts, or that we thought might. That the majority of our buildings are so a lot of times. You know, it's nice to have some. I donate to. This was. Yeah. The homeless. Yeah. Yeah, she was like, "You think your $5 doesn't make it does? I'll tell you what we're." But I was thought like $5. That's not, but it does. My $5. How many million a year?
Just under $6 million, and that's only from 30% of the state employees. 30%, or not 30%, 30,000, 11%. We're hoping to go up to 13%. Sorry.
Yeah. So we have. Oh yeah. He actually did. He actually asked me to get up.
All right.
He got up. Yeah, or if you want one of us to come by and talk about it.
Well,
Yeah, I have no problem coming by and definitely have. So if you're having trouble, or you want to talk about, or you want to do a bigger part.
And some of the other things too, like you figure out that organization that will cut a check, help is some of the things that you can do within your organization. Sometimes even within your unit, you could do like a bake sale or something where it's like, hey, everyone, Kelsey or Andrew will bake cakes. But and even a bake sale where people donate the goodies, whatever it is, and whatever money you raise, you can then designate as a organization to say, hey, I want this money to go to that veterans assistance program or whatever it may be. And then as an organization, you would instead, so it wouldn't necessarily be an individual person, but it would be up here, okay, Veterans Affairs, a one-time gift of X amount of dollars, and then you write in the organization down here, and that goes, so even stuff like that, like a bake sale or something like that, we can't do raffles or anything because of, but stuff like that, you do those, or yeah, you, donuts or whatever, donuts and coffee, and charge them. Yes, and then whatever you raise, you guys figure out as a organization who you want that money to go to, and then once it comes through us, it counts towards like your overall campaign for your, but then it goes directly to whatever organization. So separate from just like, hey, I want to donate $5 a month to so and so, and then maybe you get the information. You say, hey, this bake sale is going to benefit this organization, and this is what they do. Something that's going to catch the heartstrings of your employees here, like, hey, I can get behind that. I'll buy a bagel for $1. So those are some easy.
And that way
Yeah. And then sometimes you're going to have employees like, you know what, I don't want the bagel, but here's $10, $5, 50 cents, whatever it is. So you could do. It doesn't have anybody's information. It would just say, it would say Department of Veterans Affairs and be a one-time gift. Yep. Yeah.
last year, the first.
And I don't remember, so Wednesday I did a nonprofit fair over at Food and Ag, and they had 6 or 7 nonprofits in them, but one of them, and I can't remember the name of it, is an organization that supports children in school with disabilities, and they go into the schools and they help them with their learning, whatever it may be, help them to adjust, and it's a local organization, which is huge. It was some of the stuff she was talking about. It was pretty amazing.
One of my sons, her son is on. So I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
But it's that they come in and work,
Yeah.
Giving is out there.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know until you need it, or you know someone who needs it, and then you start looking, you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And there's a lot out there. We live in a broken world. I mean, we live in a world where there's pain, there's poverty, there's all kinds of stuff, and there's so many people that want to give back, and this is just our way to give back. It's an easy way to give back. So, perfect. All right. Thank you very much.
Everybody